Real quick, I gotta let you in on a testing secret. With regulations and breaches on the rise, production data is no longer safe or legal for developers to use. And creating test data in-house is a complex chore that eats away valuable time. That's where Tonic comes in. They make it possible to create a true mirror of production by safely and realistically mimicking production data. So you can work on real product and steer clear of surprises at release time. Learn more at tonic.ai/codestory.
We had just one shot. It was not a corporate, innovation process where you have multiple chances to do MVPs. It was like, hey, whether we have to do it now and we have to do it in one shot, right? Obviously, the trade-offs were always coming in from, what we can do with limited budget. We were not many people. Those calls we took based on, what is the core essence of the delivery service of these robots. We always focused on a complete use case where the robot should be capable of navigating in both indoor and outdoor environments seamlessly. Hi, this is Ritukar Vijay. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Autonomy.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Like 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing at the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do
took
next.
many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their
A
back.
company is its
The
people.
teams help each other achieve. I was proud of her team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
total waste of time.
The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really
It's
want it.
not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Lappart, and today how Ritukar Vijay is taking autonomous delivery to level 4 by using robots to navigate staffing shortages. This episode is supported by Terso. Terso is the open-source edge database from the creators of libSQL. Do you put your edge computing close to your users? You should put your data there too. Terso makes this easy utilizing the developer experience of SQLite. Access a free starter plan at terso.tech/codestory. Terso, welcome to the data edge. This episode is brought to you by our friends at MemberStack. MemberStack is the fastest way for you to launch a beautiful Webflow MVP with robust authentication and smooth payments integration. Join companies like Slack and American Airlines in serving millions of members every single day. Get started for free by visiting memberstack.com/codestory. Ritukar Vijay has been in tech for around 16 years. During his studies, he was interested in robotics, which he describes as the culmination of computer and physical sciences. Outside of tech, he's married with a 6-year-old son. He mentioned that his son is quite inquisitive and is requesting robot features from home, preparing to build his first robot in the future. Prior to COVID and during lockdowns, Ritukar started ideating about the autonomous delivery for an industry that was overlooked for automation. They started to create robots to service this industry and did so from their guest rooms. This is the creation story of autonomy.
So Autonomy builds autonomous delivery robots meant for hyperlocal deliveries of food and beverage, retail, and packages. I've spent good amount of time in autonomous driving technologies, robotics. Me and my co-founders, we realized that a true deployment or usage of autonomous delivery is something which can be, centered around deliveries. It is one of the most expensive and complicated leg of supply chain, and yet underserved when it comes to technology. We started ideating it before COVID. And during, the lockdowns and the COVID, we started working in that direction for an MVP and whatnot. We are operational across the globe, North America, Europe, and Middle East. And that's about it, yeah.
Tell me about the MVP. So I hear you talking about ideating, prior to COVID and then building during COVID. Tell me about that MVP, the first version of the product you built. How long did it take to build, and what sort of tools did you use to bring it to life?
honestly, before starting the company, since all of us were experienced in the industry, we realized very early that we are not able to, move any further, not with investors, not with customers, if we have an idea on a pitch deck. We need to have a physical product. And since our product is literally physical, we have to have an MVP before we move forward to even talk to any customer. So that became very, very important for us. And we started on before starting the company, just to understand that whether we can pull it off. So 4 of us, 4 co-founders and few early members, we started making the initial designs and also manufacturing of these robots, microassemblies in our guest rooms. And when the MVP was made, the first thing was, okay, these are the, set of limited features, but the core functionality exists so that we can showcase that the underlying technology, underlying, feature set is functional, and there can be a lot more which is possible over and above. Obviously, you can have definition of MVP depending on where you are in terms of the journey of a company, a product, and, a service maybe. So our thought process was that an MVP should be in a form where it can be piloted at a customer location, right? So that was our very clear definition of it. It might be having some limited functionality in terms of the robots might not look best in, fabrication, but functionally they should perform everything what it needs to be done in terms of autonomous navigation, interaction with people, software APIs and everything. So that was our definition, and we actually put it off in 3 to 4 months during the lockdowns. It could have been faster if there were no lockdowns, but I think everything happens for a reason. It was meant to be done like that at that point in time.
Let's stay on that MVP for a minute. And you're alluding to some of these at a high level, but I want to dig into a decision or trade-off you had to make. Maybe it's around, what you used to build it, or your approach, or technical debt, or anything like that, just to prove the point. But I'm curious about those decisions and how you coped with them.
We are 4 co-founders, and so we were 4 to 6 people at that point in time when we were doing, started working on the MVP. So a lot of coordination was required. So we used multiple channels like, Slack, WhatsApp, and, emails to make sure that we are on the same page, because we had just one shot. It was not a corporate, innovation process where if where you have multiple chances to do MVPs. It was hey, whether we have to do it now and we have to do it in one shot, right? At least in terms of functionality. And obviously the trade-offs were always coming in from, what we can do with limited budget, limited, resources. We were not many people. Those calls we took based on, what is the core essence of the delivery service of these robots. We always focused on a complete use case where the robot should be capable of navigating in both indoor and outdoor environments seamlessly. It should be having those, transitions as well. So we never compromised on, the type of sensors which we are using. So day one, we have been using 3D LiDARs and, cameras for doing autonomous navigation. So functionality was given the first and the most important priority. And then everything, worked backwards, that how to make it happen.
This episode is encrypted by CipherStash. Data breaches are becoming a fact of life. Know why? One of the reasons is because developers lack the right tooling to get the job done, i.e. encryption at rest tools are complex and inadequate. The solution? Encryption in use with CipherStash. CipherStash uses searchable encryption in use technology, providing continuous and universal protection for sensitive data. With CipherStash, you can turn your existing database into a vault, utilizing zero trust key management, SQL native, and with no code. Though encryption is complicated, CipherStash is easy to use. The tool fully supports SQL via a drop-in driver replacement, supporting the query types you know and love today. And did we mention it's fast? For queries over 100 million records, you can expect additional overhead of less than 1 millisecond. It's a no-brainer. Get started by reviewing their docs or downloading sample projects in Rails or Node plus Sequelize today. Visit cypherstash.com/codestory and get started protecting your data. This episode is supported by Treble. This day and age, APIs are a fact of life. And as such, product and engineering teams need tooling that is lightweight, real-time, and data-rich to help them ship and maintain APIs faster. That's where Treble comes in. Treble is an all-in-one platform for the entire API lifecycle. The product offers world-class monitoring and observability, providing more than 40 data points for each request, enabling you to understand everything from performance to user behavior. Dashboards help connecting your entire team for lifecycle collaboration. Documentation is automatically generated, saving massive amounts of time for your development team with every new release. And setting up Treble? Super easy and fast. In 3 simple steps, you can be up and running with their platform. Their pricing is designed to support API teams of all sizes. So get started with Treble today and automate your API ops. Did I mention they have a free forever plan? Find out more by visiting treble.com/codestory. That's TRBLLE.com/codestory. So you've got your MVP, it's working. How did you progress the product from there and mature it? You know, now we're into 2023, we're past the lockdown. How did you go about building your roadmap? And how did you go about deciding, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address with autonomy?
The most important thing, which is part of our DNA, is like build the product, put it out in the customer, and while working with the customer, you'll get to know what you need to build next, either incrementally or a drastic change. What we did was, after our first MVP was made, we had a small pilot with a customer, integrated pilot with an e-commerce company, and that gave us some press, and also that helped us to secure a customer in Cincinnati. Right from then, and even mid of 2021 and 22, so when we actually put these robots out as a deployed product, we were constantly learning from the customer. So one major shift which happens, where we actually last August launched Autobots 2.0, was we were at an airport where these robots were deployed, and one of the engineers just cracked a joke that, hey, it's too crowded, I wish the robot could have moved sideways to avoid that crowd. We laughed it off at that point in time, but 2 weeks later we had a design sprint and we actually started thinking in that direction. And that was how our latest version of Autobots were born, which had a functionality where it can do crab walk. I mean, it can move sideways, it can have 0 radius turns and all that. So I think it's a continuous iterative process of bringing the product to the customer in the fastest way possible, so that you learn more and you are closer to the product which is going to scale to 1,000 units or 2,000 units.
Let's switch to team. So now you mentioned 4 co-founders, and I'm curious about the relationship there, but I'm also curious about how you built your team and what did you look for in those people to indicate that they were the winning horses to join you?
One of the most important thing, in the founding team is it should work as well-oiled engine. So you don't have to spend too much time making other person understand that what you want to achieve, so that everybody is successful in their own goals and everything should contribute to the company goal. We had a long relationship, all 4 of us. We knew each other since 2012. One of the co-founders was my college junior in the robotics club. So we knew each other since a long time, and that's what the frequency was common. But the more important thing was how to build the team from here on. It's a common problem which happens with startups, that once you go for hiring, you keep hiring the similar type of people over and over again because you think the frequency is matching. But you need to have complementary skill sets to have a wonderful team, be it 5 people or even 50 people, which we are right now. We were lucky. One of our early investors, called Kinetic Ventures, they had a brilliant AI-based tool which can identify what is the archetype of a person, whether they are disruptors or they are strategists and whatnot. They put in the initial investment, because all the 4 co-founders, which we were in 4 different quadrants. We were completely complementary to each other. So without even having very detailed discussion, they put in the money, just seeing the founding team. And we continued using that AI-based tool to identify that how our teams are growing and which areas we need to focus on, what type of people we need to have more, apart from their technical competence. Archetype is very important. Not all disruptors bring a wonderful team, right? Not all strategists or artisans will make a wonderful team. It has to be a balanced thing. That's what we've been using AI for.
This episode was automatically optimized by Cast. If you run cloud-native software on AWS, Google Cloud, or Azure, you know how out of hand the bill can get. This uncertainty hurts your business, but you can solve it with Cast AI. Cast AI automates cloud cost, performance, and security management for hundreds of companies of all sizes. The platform's customers begin saving immediately and cut an average of over 60%. So before you go and sign a multi-year contract with a cloud provider or lay people off, check out what Cast AI can do for you. To get you saving even faster, Cast AI is offering a free cloud cost audit with a personal consultation. Visit cast.ai/codestory to get started. This episode is supported by Terso. Terso is the open source edge database from the creators of libSQL, the popular fork of SQLite. If you put your edge computing close to your users, like with Netlify or Vercel edge functions or Cloudflare workers, you should put your data there too, in order to maximize performance gains at the edge. Terso makes it easy. With a developer experience of SQLite and a distributed database you can replicate much closer to your users than traditional database offerings in the cloud. Terso's lightweight, easy to use, and free to get started. The team at Terso is offering a generous starter plan specifically for CodeStory listeners. Head over to terso.tech/CodeStory and get started today. That's TURSO.tech/CodeStory. Terso, welcome to the Data Edge. This will be interesting given what you're building, but I'm curious about where your mind goes or was in the beginning to now with scalability. Did you build this to scale efficiently from day one, or is this something you have to fight as you grow in any sort of capacity with autonomy?
We had a thought process that play to win. So when we were making these robots, we had this thought that these robots need to be scaled further. But there were decisions taken in the initial versions of the robot that, hey, we don't have to be 100% ready to scale up at this point in time. So there are a few things which are, more focused around manufacturability in long term. So those were left initially, which we are covering now. So at this point in time, a lot of value engineering is happening to make the product which is accepted by the customers and making it more economical in terms of the cost and repeatable in terms of the scale of manufacturing. One more aspect which we realized was that regarding the usage of the robot, not only the end customer, but also with the team which is installing these tens or hundreds of robots at in different areas. So that's where that becomes another angle to look at, where usability of the product for installation or maintenance is also very, very important as we scale up.
Ritukar, as you step out on the balcony and you look across all that you've built, what are you most proud of?
I think what we are proud of is that we were able to pull it off. What we were thinking during COVID that, hey, let's do this. And today we have a very enthusiastic and competent team who is also thinking the same, that let's do it. So I think that continuation of energy is something which is what we have built. I mean, products can, improve, they can drastically change, but what you're left with is the team which can actually make the difference. So that's exactly what I'm proud of.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
I think one of the most important things is that getting everything right in the first go, and it has to be perfect. Now, that definition of perfect is sometimes which keeps a lot of startups go a little slow. So after the initial, MVP test which we did, it took almost 6 months for us to, get to a deployed product. That is something, if we could have really improvised in terms of definition of the perfect. It could have been done like 3 months earlier, and the deployed effect would have been fast. The learnings would have been faster. So, we learned from that experience because we were an early stage company, had a successful, MVP test with a customer, and then took 6 months to deploy. Now, that was something which was not a very, very comfortable state. What we learned was that be agile, have a look at the future, what is required, but, be quick to put the product version in front of the customer sooner, so that the learnings which we were having after 6 months or 8 months after putting the robots, that could come in early and we can improvise the product better. So I think agility is something which we learned in the first, initial phases of our company. And that still stays with us. I think, that is name of the game, because that's how you can actually disrupt. If it takes like 3 to 6 months to, realize a change into an actual product, I think it's too late in current generation.
This will be really interesting to hear, especially, from the founder's standpoint. What does the future look like for the product and for your team?
There has been tremendous noise when it comes to AI and, the applications of AI. I think, one of the major changes or a sea change which is coming into the market is around people, right? So people are not willing to do certain jobs and they need to be transferred to a more effective solution. This has happened in the past with computers, like when personal computers came in, a lot of people, were repurposed to different roles. And that's exactly what is going to happen when it comes to robotics. And it is an actual physical avatar of AI deployments happening in next 5 to 10 years. So I think a lot of change in last 5 years or 10 years, what we have seen is the warehousing industry having a lot of robots to do material, movement. The next 5 to 10, you'll see a lot of public robots which are part of our day-to-day lives, which will be including autonomous cars, robotaxis, and delivery robots. These are the things which are going to, keep us occupied for next 5 to 10 years.
Ritukar, let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
I'm slightly crazy when it comes to ideation, or, I'm a believer in terms of what my gut says. And that's a very risky proposition. So what balances out is, my wife, she's a very realistic person and, keeps me in fine checks and balances, so that my wild dreams are, actually toned down to a real action plan. She might not be contributing directly, but indirectly that helps me to structure my thoughts very effectively. I think I look up to her to keep me in a realistic action plan. But, broadly, it's like instinct-driven development, which happens because that gives you understanding of what the customer wants based on all your knowledge. But at the end, you need to have your instinctive, decision-making, which helps you to take those calls. Otherwise, everything else is data-driven. You really don't have to, make or apply too much brain out of it.
Ritukar, last question. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
One of the things which I'll tell him that, never stop pitching. So you never know, who you are sitting next to. Initially, everybody is enthusiastic, but after 6 months of pitching, the energy goes down and then you become selective where to pitch, where not to pitch. I think if you're making a product specifically in, B2C or a B2B2C segment where customer is involved, getting their reactions, responses, always important. So it doesn't matter that the person sitting next to you is an investor or an end customer. So I think, that'll be number one advice, that keep the way it is. But at the same time, do conserve your energy, because this is not something, which is going to finish. Even if you're successful, getting an article on TechCrunch is not going to, end. That will just start a new journey, which will be much more challenging. So have a long-term goal, not just like quick wins.
That's fantastic advice. Well, Ritukar, thank you for being on the show today, and thank you for telling the creation story of autonomy.
Thank you, Noah. Wonderful discussion.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.